Hi guys. I'm just trying to bring up the chat on my iPad before we get started. And I'm having trouble. Hang on. And there's at least one of you out there. Hold on. Yeah, seriously. I hesitate to say I'm trying to find myself because it just sounds so weird, but I'm trying to find myself. Oh, there we are. There I am. Yay. There's 3 of you watching now. I'll put the mute on. Let's make sure the mute is on the other desktop too. Okay, cool. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Watercolor Wednesday. First, before we get started, while people are joining us, I thought I would unmold these. So this is just inspired by Ann Williamson over at Annalise Creates and or Nancy Vastine, and somebody else has done it too. That's exactly the problem, Michelle. My new iPad, I'm still getting used to it, although it's very similar to my old one. It's definitely different. I just use golden molding paste. Some brands call it modeling paste. It's the same thing. There is a flexible one. I don't have that. I just had this. I know Anne used the Deco Art one. And so I just used what I had. Closer? Okay, hold on. Okay. So I thought while we were waiting for people to join us, we would unmold these. So this is a leaf mold. All of these, this mold I got from Amazon. The rest of these are from Hobby Lobby when I got them when I was in Las Vegas. And so let's see. These have been drying for 2 days, and I wasn't super careful about, you know, that extra. So you're going to have to cut. I'm going to have to cut some of this, trim the edges, but I gotta say, this is surprisingly more flexible than I thought it would be. And look at that detail in that. I'm gonna have to trim it, but I gotta say, I'm very surprised. I might have to order some more molds now. I like the idea that I don't have to like get anything special, like any special kind of clay or anything. I can just use what I have. Hello, isn't that what we're all shooting for? Not having to buy more stuff. And I love these feathers. These are going to be great. Right? That's what I thought, Michelle. I thought it should be more stiff because on paper it just is so stiff. All right, let's try the, I'm nervous about the lace ones. Let's try the hearts first. Oh yeah, see, look at this. Now this is, I think, a chocolate mold. Cindy found it at Hobby Lobby when we were in Las Vegas, and she cut it, it was a big mold. She cut it in half and gave me half. Oh, these little hearts are cute. Yeah, very great for inexpensive embellishments, Teresa. I totally agree with you. And you could use them on your journal pages, ATC cards. You know, of course, you could put them on a canvas. You could put them on so many things. Let's try the lace ones now. Now, the lace ones, you really have to make sure you get your stuff in all the cracks, that there's no holes. Look at that. I mean, I'll have to trim the edges, but is anybody else as surprised as I am? about how this modeling paste works. And this is just golden modeling paste. It's nothing special. It's, hey, Lisa, it's probably something we all have in stock. You could definitely glue these down to a page and then watercolor around and over them. Use your spray inks and some water soluble things. That would be fun. You could also mix paint with your modeling paste before you do this, or molding paste. All right, let's do another one. I'm just so surprised. That's what I thought, Michelle. I thought the really delicate ones would not pull cleanly out of the mold and that they would break when I tried to pull them out. I was really kind of nervous about it. And this one's kind of thin on the end, but I don't think that's because of the mold. I think that's because of the way I put the modeling paste in. I probably missed a spot. See, I missed a little spot. All right, now this one was also a big mold, and Cindy cut it in half and gave me half. And this one might, again, might be a little bit broken. I went back and put a second layer on there because it looked like I had some holes in it. Never mind. How cool is that? So again, be glad this is not smell-o-vision because I literally just got home from the gym like with 10 minutes to spare. I did manage to get some inspiration photos put up to my website, one of which we're going to use this morning. How cool is this? This is going to be so cool. And these are inexpensive, and it's a great idea because this mold was twice as long, and so Cindy cut it in half. So for art journaling and what we do with it, you don't need that huge long mold. So you definitely could cut it in half and then sell half of it or share it with a friend. That would be a great way to get more of these molds, and they're not super expensive. They do sell them at all your arts and crafts stores in the cake decorating aisle, and you can use a coupon. You know, use your 40% off coupon. And yes, that's what I'm saying. I stink. All right. So this morning, I don't know which paints we're going to use. I don't know. Okay, so when I was in Las Vegas and we went to Dick Blick, and for those of you who don't know, Dick Blick and Utrecht are the same company. Yeah, thankfully, Michelle, since we shared a bed. All right, so Utrecht and Dick Blick are owned. They're part of the same company. So when we were at Dick Blick, I picked up some Utrecht brand watercolor brushes. These are synthetic. These are the Utrecht 6150 line of brushes. These I got a round number 4, a 6, and an 8. And I thought I would get them to try. Now these brushes are super affordable. They start from like $2.63, and the most expensive one is like less than $11. So I really wanted to get them to try so that we could, you know, I'm always looking for a good inexpensive paintbrush. So we're going to try those this morning. I have my Mission Gold paints. They were honestly out before I left. And then I have my mixed paint palette. I'm not honestly sure which one I want to use this morning. I don't know. And we'll get out the watercolor journal. And my watercolor travel journal. Okay, so this is my watercolor travel journal. This is the one I bring with me when I go out of town. One of the couple. And yes, you are. You are Teresa, and LOL. Yeah, no, it was a nothing kinky going on. I'm 52. I don't do that anymore. Anyway, before I stick my foot in my mouth. So my travel watercolor palette's about this size. I could take this one traveling with me if I wanted, but I don't usually have one that's much bigger than this. This is the Mission Gold palette. And this would be great for traveling because it has just enough of the right colors in it, except no Payne's gray. But I could mix something close with the Van Dyke brown and some blue and toss a little red in there. I'd get something that's pretty close. So when I'm taking watercolors with me, I just take this and like a water brush. So this is my travel watercolor book. Yeah, that wasn't the least of it. All I can say is somebody we were hanging out with and having lunch with one day made me blush like crazy. Okay. And I'm not going to say anything about it, so don't ask. So these are some different paintings that I've done while I've been on vacation, different vacations. This is one that I did on this last trip to Las Vegas. And then this is another one that I did. I normally only do one. This time I did two. And this one got a lot of comments, and I thought this would be a good one to paint today. Rather than doing more test swatches, we can do test swatches next week. And I may even start filming some of them because I've got a lot actually to finish, and I don't want to keep doing swatches on Watercolor Wednesday Live. And speaking of that, there are two videos that air today, the first 2 parts of the next 4-part painting. And in this next 4-part series, at the end of each section, each brand, then I have put my conclusions about that brand. Now, these are my conclusions. This is my opinion. Take it for what you will. You're totally okay to it's totally okay to disagree with me. I like what was the one Holbein watercolors straight out of the tube. They're fabulous. But when they're dry like this and you go to re-wet them, they don't re-wet super well. So while I like their paints and they're nice, they're a little pricey, but they're nice. I like to work from a dry palette like this. So in that particular case, I'm not super excited about them. So that's my opinion. At the end of each section, I put my opinion. Hey, Josie, how are you? I'm just catching up on the comments here. Okay, so yeah, Michelle broke her butt in Las Vegas, like on the first 2 hours. All right, so we're gonna work on another version of these desert blooms. And I did put my reference photo up onto my website, so you can go there and print it out. I put a couple of other photos too. I think there's 5 pictures in all that I added this morning. What do I like in regards to what, Josie? So I put, I think, 5 pictures up this morning. Hey, Sharon. And so you can go to my website and you can, there's an inspiration photos page, and you can print out and use as reference any of the photos on there. I've taken all of them. My daughter took a couple, but I have her permission to use them. And they're great photos. This is one I took at Red Rock Canyon. And so we're going to work from this. I'm going to stick it up here. And we're going to work here in my watercolor journal. Let's see, find a blank page. Oh, so my favorite type of watercolor paints are Daniel Smith. I do also like Schminke. They're very well pigmented. They're a little bit pricey, but they're really nice paints to work with. As far as blah, 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 blah. I need some more caffeine, I'm telling you, holy cow. As far as expensive brands go, probably Van Gogh. It's an affordable brand. It's pretty readily available just about everywhere. Hobby Lobby has it. In fact, they've had some of it on clearance. So if you want to go pick it up on clearance, I think that's a great idea. I also like Koi. Koi makes a really nice watercolor paint. It's very well pigmented, fairly transparent, and I enjoy working with it. And my travel watercolor box is probably 3/4 koi. It's koi and Daniel Smith. So, but at the end of each video, there will be a text box at the end of each of the new 4-part series that gives my conclusions about that particular brand of paint. And when we're done reviewing all the brands that I have, I'll give you some sort of overall summary, probably in a video, where we will go through the swatch book and talk about each brand and what my conclusions are. That'll be coming up. All right, so one of the other things I did, and I did this right before I left, was I went out and got some Oxgall liquid. Now, Oxgall is a watercolor medium, and this is the Winsor Newton brand. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and yes, it was $12.99. I used a coupon. It is supposed to increase wetting and flow in your watercolor paint. And you add 3 to 4 drops to a cup of water. So I actually put some in this spray bottle. I think this came with my Twinkling H2Os. And I got it to try and see if it re-wets the dry watercolors any better than using plain water, which it's supposed to do. Also, at some point, we're going to try it on those dang Holbein paints that I had trouble re-wetting. So I thought we would try that this morning, and I think that I'm wanting to, I think we'll use the Mission Gold palette. I'm really liking the Mission Gold paints. Now, they're not super inexpensive. In fact, they're, you know, pricey like everything else out there. They're not the most pricey thing on the planet, but they're not cheap either. But they're very nicely pigmented, I gotta say. I really like them. And this 12 color palette is really nice. Okay. I got to arrange everything. So let's get our palette wet first. Normally I do this off camera, but I was at the gym, so we'll let it sit for a minute. Let's get it played out. And let's see what I did the last time. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is get a number 2 pencil. And I just got some drawing pencils from Maped Helix. And this is, they're called Black Peps. This is a HB2 drawing pencil. This will work. Any pencil will work. And also, too, when you're talking about types of paint, you want to, you know, decide what you're going to do with it. If you're going to just play with your art journal, in your art journal with it, then I would definitely go with something more budget-friendly, like the Koi paints or the Van Gogh paints or something like that, rather than spending a lot of money on like Daniel Smith or something. Unless you decide you really, really, really love watercolor. I'm going to try to move this up a little bit so that you guys can see what I'm doing. Let's see. Rearranging my table. This is all stuff I usually do before I get started. I'm still trying to get back in the swing of things from being on vacation. Let's see. So if you're a beginner, I would definitely say go with like the Koi. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on paint. All right. So now we're going to first do a drawing. And I know a lot of you don't like to necessarily do tons of drawing, and that's fine, but doing good art and good journal pages requires a little bit of drawing skills. You don't have to have tons of drawing skills, but a little bit goes, you know, you should have a little bit. And you can be suggestive. I usually am. So I'm going to follow the stem. I'm really just picking out the flowers and the stem here. And I'm using my photo as inspiration for my drawing. And first I'm going to put my stem in. Whoops. And I'm not going to worry about the extra lines. This, you know, journal is for experimenting in and practicing. And I kind of like the suggestion and the interest that the extra lines give you in your page. And there's only one way to get better at drawing, to do it. So as a beginner, Josie, I would stick with the, you know, something that's budget friendly, like the koi. You can get koi at like Hobby Lobby. They have the well, I guess it's the 30 pan set now, but I last time I was at Hobby Lobby, they still had the 24. I think the new one is like 30. Okay, so now I'm going to look at these flowers here. And I'm going to just, I'm looking at the shapes. I'm drawing what I see, not what I think I see. Think about that statement. So draw what you see, not what you think you see. Which is way easier said than done. I'm aware of that. Yeah. Sorry, Josie. I forgot that you were in Italy there for a minute. Yeah, there probably isn't. I have been in communication with an Italian paint company. I forget where in Italy, that makes watercolors. Trying to get them to send me some things to try. Maybe you can get something like the koi kit on Amazon. Does Amazon Prime? Do you have Prime there? So I'm just looking at the shapes in my inspiration photo. And if you want to get a better look at the inspiration photo, then go to my website and print it out. Oh, good. You know, I love a good small mom and pop art store. There's just really nothing like it. We found one when we were in Las Vegas, Desert Art Supply. Love those guys. They're a little bit off, but you know, you can tell they're creative types, because aren't we all a little bit off? So I'm doing light pencil sketches. You know, if you're not sure that you want to keep the lines, maybe you want to erase them later, then you want to keep your pencil lines light. No digging any holes to China with your pencil. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with a good suggestive sketchy mark. Yeah, we love that guy. They had tons of the place was packed, floor to ceiling with art supplies. Great prices, great selection of stuff, and probably the most manufacturer pamphlets and stuff I've seen in any art supply in a long time. No, I agree with that, Teresa. You wouldn't think that at all, but we found them. They did have some. Now, especially when you're doing some kind of a study or a practice sketch, don't worry so much if your image ends up running off the end of the page. And even sometimes when I'm working on a canvas or a piece for a client, Sometimes I do that intentionally, or even if it's accidental, I like it, and so I end up not changing it. So don't feel like that you've made a mistake if things run off the end of the page, like this one's going to. The other one did too in the practice, in the travel journal. Remember, your inspiration photo is a suggestion, and you should, you know, use it as such. If you want a true representation of what you saw, well, that's why we have cameras. But when you're working on a piece of artwork, use your photos as inspiration for your art. And you try to create the impression of what you saw rather than trying to make yourself crazy painting exactly what you saw. I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to come in with a black pen. And this is exactly how I did the one in my journal. So once I had the basic shape that I was happy with, okay, wait, tea break. Let the camera focus. There we go. Then I took a black pen, something that was waterproof, and I went and highlighted some of the shapes that I liked. No, I don't worry about the pencil showing generally. I just let it help me suggest my shapes in the finished piece. Now, if you're worried about the pencil showing and you really don't want it to, you have two solutions. One would be to use a water-soluble pencil, like a watercolor pencil. One would be to let your waterproof ink dry and then erase the pencil. Now, you can try and erase the pencil after you've watercolored on it, but I find that that's difficult at best. I usually don't bother because, hello, lazy crafter here. Not the frugal crafter, that's Lindsay. Lazy crafter. Hey, Katana, how are you? No problem, we're just getting started. So I'm going to use my Sharpie stainless steel pen to help me suggest some lines. And I kind of like these accidental pencil sketches here, so I'm going to put them in. And you can use any pen. I'm going to use the Sharpie pen, but I don't either. So I usually just leave it. I either do it before I watercolor or I just leave it. So go ahead and take some of your lines and highlight some of them. You don't have to do all of them, especially if you plan on leaving the pencil lines, then it's not important that you do all of them. But you probably want to do a few of them, and that way you make some shapes stand out a little more than they would normally when you're watercoloring. And you're going to be able to see this better on camera too. And those of you who've been watching me for a while, you know I like my loose, sketchy lines. Part of the reason for that is because trying to draw a straight, even line just makes me want to just tear my hair out. So I generally just don't even bother because it just is too frustrating. And don't feel like you have to draw, you know, every single line in, whether in pencil or in pen. You know, again, be suggestive. The human eye is going to put some of those lines in whether you ask it to or not. And flowers are not, you know, straight and even. Their edges are uneven and ruffly, and nature is not even and straight. So don't draw it that way. Okay, so that's pretty good. I am going to erase this little line right here because that one's kind of in the wrong spot. Let's use this eraser. That's not suggesting anything, so it needs to go away. You know, I don't know what these are. This was taken in Red Rock Canyon. There's some kind of wild desert bloom. I think they had the name of it on one of the signs at the visitor center, but none of us remember what that name was. If one of you out there knows, let me know, but I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to start painting. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is put this up here because now it's really color and shadow reference. So I'm going to take the wider of the brushes, that number 8 round. And I'm going to mix on my plate here because this palette of paints, these are the Mission Gold paints, is really small. I'm going to mix a little bit of the burnt sienna with a lot of water. I'm going to put in a little bit of the Van Dyke brown. And I'm going to just a little bit of blue. I want to just blacken it up just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. They're beautiful flowers. But I have no idea. Okay, so I'm going to just randomly, the first thing I wanted to do was, you see how this has like a grayish, brownish green background because of the rocks and the dead vegetation. So I wanted to do that first before I did anything else. And this is how I did the page in the journal. This is a little too green. Let me, hang on, let me. Okay, now it's too red. It's not the color I want. Yeah. That's better. Just keep mixing it until you get the color that you want. That's better. Holy moly. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is this. Okay. Then take your brush with just water and take some of those droplets and put water on them. And spread the pigment out. You can leave some of them the way they are. The background of these flowers was very uneven and had lots of textures and tones in it. So don't worry about that. And your color could be even lighter than the one I started with. And to do that, just add a lot of water to it. And you can even take some plain water and do this, and that's going to, you know, hit some of the paint. The best way to learn about watercolor is just to start playing. Don't listen to should haves or need tos or must do's. Just start playing and enjoying your paints and figuring out what they can and can't do and what you like and don't like about it, and just go from there. I've never ever taken a proper watercolor class. I've watched a few DVDs and YouTube videos. So I like that. And just keep doing that until you're happy with your background. This is the background. So do this first, and then when you paint your flowers in, you don't have to touch it up. And the only thing I did with the original was after I was done, then I put in some shadow. And I actually like this even better. So that's the other thing, is if you do one of these when you're on vacation, you know, consider it like a study. And if you want to paint it again, the more you paint a subject, the better you're going to be at it. Globe mallow. Okay, see, there you go. You have to find your own style, Teresa. I totally agree with that. All right, so we're going to leave that. I like that. We're going to mix up some green. I'm going to do the stems first. Now that green's a little bit bright and limey for me and for what I'm seeing in the picture. So I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine to it. There we go. And tone it down a little bit by just mixing some more blue in it. I'm going to put this on the side of the stems where I want the shadows to be. And then I'm going to take my brush with just water on it, and I'm going to blend that pigment out to the other side. And it'll give me some varying shades of green without adding any more color. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. Okay. And don't worry so much if you go outside the lines. You know, this is not, you know, about, this is about suggesting your shapes and colors. We're not crazy about going outside, about not going outside the lines. Have fun with the process. And that was the sap green from Mission Gold, and then I added some ultramarine blue to it, FYI, for somebody who's asking. If anybody's asking. So when, you know, when you're working with watercolors, start with your lighter colors and work your way darker. I almost always, with watercolor or acrylic, do my backgrounds first. That way, when I'm painting the focal point, I don't have to go back and try to paint the background around it. It's already been done. And I don't have to go back and try to touch up something because I got, you know, background paint on it. Okay, I have this other color of green that's more blue, darker, a viridian green. So we're going to take some of that and we're going to add it in here. And I'm going to actually put some of the brown in it. Okay, so we're working our way lighter to darker. And I know my other green is still dry, and I'm okay with that. And this is going to blend in with it a little bit, but that's all right. I'm using just the very tip of the brush. I'm still got this number 8 brush, and I got to tell you guys, I like this brush. It's a nice paintbrush. It holds a point very well. Now you notice I didn't draw any stems over here, but the way the painting is coming out, I didn't really need to. It's being suggestive of the stems, which is nice. I definitely, if you're in the area, I would recommend that you guys take a trip out to Red Rock Canyon. I do know that now I know why my husband and I usually go in the summer when it's really hot, because there's nobody there. The weather was beautiful, but everybody on the planet was at Red Rock Canyon. Also, Valley of the Fire is gorgeous, which is out that way, and Hoover Dam. They're all great places for inspiration. That's pretty good. I kind of like that. So we're going to leave that and let that dry for a little bit and work on some other part of the painting. So I've got some permanent yellow light here. Did anybody notice I accidentally stuck, oh, you can't see it on camera. I accidentally stuck my paintbrush in the clean bucket of water, so now both buckets have are a little tinted. That's all right. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you notice, the flowers have kind of a yellowy orange center. So I'm going to put just the permanent yellow the way it is, mixed with a bunch of water, in the flower centers. Kind of sloppily. I'm going to come back in with some water and blend it out just a bit towards the petal edges. Oop, missed a little. That should be green. Let's fix that, shall we? There we go. All right. Don't be nervous, Josie. I'll keep you distracted. All right. And I do have to tell you that I loved these Mission Golds before. I thought they re-wet nicely. There's something about using that ox gall in the water, though. I think it's even better than it was before. All right, so now we're going to work our way more towards the oranges. And when I did the sample one, I even added a little bit of pink in there. So we're going to start with, I have just orange, Mission Gold orange. I'm going to mix it with the yellow that's on my plate. Yeah, I heard about Brussels, and I haven't heard about anything else going on, but I haven't really watched the news since I got back. Are you safe, Josie? I hope. I'm just yellowing up my orange a little bit. All right. So we're going to work our way from the center to the outer edges. These flowers, for the most part, have darker outer edges, and the centers are lighter. So we're going to just put a little bit of pigment. Remember, a little bit goes a long way. There's no need to go crazy and overboard. There we go. And, you know, do some lifting. We're supposed to call it lifting, not blotting. I still think it looks like blotting. Same difference. And blend it out a little bit towards the outer edges. And you notice how right there I suggested the outer edge of that petal by putting paint behind it. These brushes hold a lot of water, I gotta tell you. I'm impressed. No bristles are popping out. There's no stray hairs. So I'm going to work my way around the page. I'm sure he's going to be fine, Josie. He'll be careful, he and his new wife. And how great is that you have a new daughter-in-law? That's fabulous. I shouldn't say that, or son-in-law. It doesn't matter. That your son has a partner. He will be. It'll be great. Okay, so then I'm just blending it out. If you don't get to it quick enough, and the pigment starts to dry on the paper and it doesn't re-wet very well on the paper, it stains, just do this and take some more pigment and go over it. Some of those lines may show, but just work with it. And you know what, like what Bob Ross used to call them, happy accident, just work with it and work it into your piece like it was supposed to be there. Okay, so that's pretty good. We're getting there. I like it. All right, so we are going to let the centers dry a little bit. I do want to do something else to the centers. We're going to keep working our way out. We're going to take our same orange mixture and we are going to add some permanent rose to it. Now, just because your inspiration photo of whatever flowers you're using is a certain color doesn't mean you can't paint them a different color. So you can take some creative license there. So I'm going to take this permanent rose and go around some of the edges and darker parts of the flower. It's going to blend with the orange paint on here where it's still wet, and I'm okay with that. It's going to give me an interesting secondary color. And like right there, that's a little too much water. So let's get some of that up. There we go. If you have a paint that you're using that's super pigmented like these Mission Gold ones, then, you know, just you're going to have to practice with them and try to remember a little bit goes a long way. And when you switch to an artist grade paint from, you know, something like the Koi, that's can be a hard adjustment. It is very important to have good brushes. Now, that doesn't mean you need to spend a ton of money on brushes, because that's not true. You just need to have a good, decent brush. And like I said, this is an inexpensive Utrecht brand paintbrush. I bought it at Dick Blick. It's not an expensive brush at all, and it's holding up really well. I also like the Princeton Neptunes and the Princeton Select brushes for watercolor. And again, those are a little bit more pricey than this Utrecht brush, but I buy them when they're on sale. I have a local place I know you don't have in Italy, Josie, but Aaron Brothers, and they'll have buy one, get two free. And that's when my local stores have sales like that. That's when I go buy brushes. I want to be a grandma someday too, Josie, but my daughter's only 21 and her boyfriend's 22. I would rather they both wait a little while and finish school. So I'm going to continue working, and you don't always have to blend all of your paint lines out. Let your paint lines live on the paper and let them help you suggest your shapes. If you make a line on your flower that you like, then leave it. There's no law that says all your marks have to be blendy. My paintings are usually puddly. I like them that way. I fully anticipate being the grandma that spoils the kids rotten, fills them up with sugar, and then sends them home. My daughter's going to kill me. But her grandmother used to give her bowls of Cool Whip. Just Cool Whip. No pie, no cake, just Cool Whip. And then send her home. Hey, Victor. We're just painting some flowers here this morning. Thanks, Danielle. They're called Globe Mallow. I know that because Michelle looked them up while I was here painting them because I couldn't remember what they were called. They're wild, desert wildflowers. We saw them in Red Rock Canyon when we were there. I took some pictures at the visitor center. You can download the photo that I'm using as inspiration off of my website. And I took a few flower pictures while I was on vacation, some of which were taken at my brother-in-law's wedding, outside their wedding venue. They had some beautiful blooms, and I got some great shots with my iPhone. The camera on the iPhone it's not as good as Michelle's HD camera. I mean, DSLR camera, but it's pretty good. Oh, good. See, I'm glad you're here. And Lisa, I'm sorry about your grandmother. You know, I just made it through a couple of airports recently, obviously, so you'll be fine. You know, just, you know, that's what TSA is for. You have to trust them to do what they're supposed to be doing. And, you know, security might be stepped up a little bit, so you might want to not carry anything on board that you don't have to. And I'm here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. My stem is a little thick, but I'm okay with it. We're going to just leave it. What do I want to do next? I think I need to do this. So I'm going to take a little bit of my green, and if you look at the flowers, there's a little bit of a green highlight in the center of the flowers, like a green shadow. So we're going to put some of the green in here. And I'm not going to blend it this time. I'm going to leave the painty marks or lines and let it do what it might. And I'm still using it. I'm using this number 8. It's holding a point very well, this number 8 brush. And I think this brush was only like $4 or $5. It wasn't expensive. I thought the mixed media fabric beads were interesting. I haven't had a chance to watch the video yet. I'm still catching up. But I thought it was an interesting idea. When I stop talking, it's because I'm catching up on the comments. Okay, I'm going to take some of the yellow straight out of the pan. Well, don't be afraid of your watercolors. Just have fun with them and play. Don't listen to anybody's, well, it's supposed to look like this or you're supposed to do that. Don't listen to that. Just do what makes you happy. So this is permanent red, and I'm just mixing it with the other stuff that's already on my palette. I'm going to put some yellow in it. And now I'm using my paint colors to help me define some of my shapes. They may do like blooming like this just did here, but I'm okay with that. Thank you, Victor. I'm just playing. I did get asked by people when I was in Las Vegas if I would do private lessons with them over like Google Hangout or Skype, and I said I would. So Karen, no, we only know each other from online. I know a few of them in real life in person, but we've just been hanging out online for a long time. And welcome, by the way. So I'm using this darker orangey red color that I mixed up from the paint I had on my palette to define my flower petals. I'm still working on the flower petals. You really want to, before you start putting the shadows in, really make sure the rest of your piece is the way you like it. Let's see. There's like a... You don't always have to make your shadows with black. Think about making your shadows with colors. Oh, I love a good abstract. I work in acrylic too, but I really love watercolor. It's what I started in first, just playing. I haven't done a canvas in a while, actually. I probably should do one soon, so I'm still in practice. And it's not like I have a shortage of canvases around. I've got a ton of them out in the garage. They're on my do not buy list. So you start to create depth in your painting, in your flowers, just by adding more layers of colors. And I've taken classes to try to be better at abstract. I still kind of suck at it. I work primarily in watercolor these days, but not only. I do have a commission for some sketchy watercolor pieces I need to do for a project for somebody. Hey, Yusuf, how are you? Good morning or afternoon. What time is it? Oh, it's still 11 o'clock my time, so good morning. It might be evening where you are. A good abstraction, in my opinion, is one that just makes sense. When I do them, and I'm probably way hard on myself, they just look like somebody just threw paint on the canvas and it doesn't make sense. I don't work in oils. It's probably the one thing I don't work in. The fumes make me wheeze, which would be why I don't work in oil. So I'm just adding layers of color until I get the suggestive look that I want. Yeah? All right. That's pretty good. And this was a quick painting when I did it. I think I did it while I did some of it before everybody got up in the morning, I think, while we were having coffee. Or when we got home. I don't remember. One of them I did before coffee, and one of them I did after we got home, back to the condo. So you notice I just mixed everything that was on my plate together. And I got this nice dark brown color. And I'm just going to work with what I have. I might add a little bit of ultramarine blue to it. Blue it up just a little bit. There we go. And that made sort of a grayish brown, less reddish. Okay. So I'm going to look at my reference photo and I'm going to put some shadows in. little bit of pigment, and then a whole bunch of water. Just do a little bit at a time. Yeah, yeah, I was almost done with it. No worries, Nancy. Welcome. Watercolors are not forgiving. You're right. They're really not. But I think I like the challenge of working with them. There's something about it that intrigues me. So the only thing you want to make sure that you do is have all of your shadows going in the right direction or the same direction when you're doing, and that's true for any kind of painting or drawing. So sometimes what I'll do when I'm working on a piece, especially if I'm working on an easel with canvas, is that I will put a Post-it note that says sun and with an arrow, so I know which direction the sun is coming from so that I don't screw up my shadows. You can also use your dark shadow color to cover up and disguise some of the lines and things that you don't like. You won't get rid of them, but that's okay. But you can cover them up and make them look less obvious. So it can straighten out the shape of your flower a little bit if it's off. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, we're going to have to do it again because it was a lot of fun. I'm going to Alaska in May with my husband, so that's also going to be a lot of fun. Yes, my husband says you guys are a bad influence on my vocabulary, Michelle. But he said it with a wink, and then he said the F word. So I don't think it was that big a deal. 41, you're just a baby. Yeah, I love the challenge of watercolors. I love how they move on paper. I love the translucency and the ability that you have to really just layer them on top of one another. Do you see we had some orange escape, but I'm going to work with it. I'm going to just put some water here and blend it out a little bit. Well, my birthday's in August 2nd. Okay, so we're going to just work our way around the page. Now, if you're a mixed media artist, like I like to consider myself, you don't have to stop with the watercolors and pen and pencil. Technically, that's mixed media already. But you could do some stamping in the background. You could add little highlights of white gel pen. You know, don't limit yourself to one medium. If you feel like you want to add a little bit of white gel pen to it or some acrylic paint highlights or something, do it. Just have fun, especially if you're working in a journal like this where it's just a study journal. Don't be afraid to try things. Thank you. These flowers were fun to paint, as much fun to paint this time as they were the first time. I would not want to be 14 again. Not for anything in the world. So a little bit of pigment and then spread it out with water. If it blends with other pigments in the page, Don't worry about it. Let it go. If you don't want it to, then you have to control where you put the water and how much water, and leave it. Don't be afraid to leave a white space. It gives you an interesting illustratorly look. Yeah, my astrological sign is Leo. Leo the lion. Well, congratulations, Karen. Yeah, you never know when you're on here for the newbies, be you male or female, what we're going to talk about. Sometimes it's menopause, and if there's men in the audience, I feel bad because you're probably learning things you don't need to know or don't want to know. But, you know, we just chat and paint, and you can ask Michelle and Cindy. I'm like this in real life, too. We just chat and do art, and you never really know what I'm going to start chatting about. So that's pretty good. I feel like we need some down here. I was 31 when I had my daughter. She's 21. All right, that's pretty good. I'm feeling like I want to break it up a little bit, though, and we are going to add some, let's see, we're going to try to mix up something that's more blue here. Yeah, that's pretty good. So if you want to make a dark black blue color or a dark black gray color, mix all your primary colors together on your palette. When you have a limited like 12 color palette here like this one that doesn't have a black in it, just mix red, yellow, and blue together until you get the color you're looking for. If you have a brown, you can use the brown. And I'm going to take this darker color here. So you really want to add some darks. It really will make your piece pop. I'm going to have to get used to these brushes. They really hold a lot of water. I have to say, though, I like them. So it was looking good before, but then I added that, and look what happened. I like that. I am going to mop up some of this extra water because there's too much water on there. Like I said before, I can't wait to have grandkids. I'm going to be that grandma that spoils them rotten with bowls of Kool-Aid and then sends them home. Daughter's going to kill me. I'll also make them eat vegetables. Unlike our boyfriend, we love him dearly. If they get married, we won't be upset, but the boy does not like vegetables. It must be a Lithuanian thing. At least that's what he claims. I don't know if I believe him, but he claims it's a Lithuanian thing. Okay, so now I'm adding my dark shadows, and yes, I'm going right over the stems in some cases where I deem they're appropriate, and I'm actually not really looking at my photo anymore. Now I'm doing what's best for my painting and not necessarily what I see is best for what is in the photo. I'm doing what's best for the painting. I'm trying to watch the chat and paint at the same time, and it's just not working. All right. So at some point, you need to put the photo away, and you need to do what's best for your painting. Yeah, I like the Princeton Neptune too. They also hold a lot of water. For a long time, I used super cheap brushes that frustrated the crap out of me because the bristles would fall out and all kinds of other things. You don't have to spend tons of money on your paintbrushes, but spending a couple dollars more for a nicer brush like the Princeton Neptune, the Princeton Select is also nice. It doesn't hold quite as much water, but you can use it for acrylic or watercolor. Or this one's nice for a cheap. This is a cheap brush. For a cheap brush, this is a great one. Thank you, Victor. Oh, there you go. Now everybody has Karen's Facebook link. The use of water and where you put your water is just as important as where you put your pigments. You definitely can use watercolor with stamped images if you don't draw or you don't have confidence in your drawing skills. There's nothing wrong with learning about watercolor and playing with it with stamped images. You have some fun figure stamps or something like that in your stash of stuff. Stamp them with waterproof ink or emboss them, and then play with your watercolor paints. I'm gonna have to go look when we're done with the broadcast because now they're all talking about your work, Karen. So I'm sure it's gorgeous. Okay, I kind of like that. I am going to do this. I'm going to take some of my yellow and we're going to just dirty it up a little bit with the grays. And we're going to take some of the grays. Now, if you're going to do this, then you want to not get it on your flowers, then put little scraps of paper where the flowers are. This is a study book, so I'm not too concerned. And you can also, like, if you get, like, I'm not so crazy about that blob, so go in there with a wet brush with no paint on it. You won't get it all up if it's a good quality paint, but you'll get, I got 90% of it up. I haven't yet. I do have some design team members, some of whom are here in the chat, hint, hint, that have some of my stamps. They should make some things and they should post them. I would love to see, or any of the rest of you. So I like that. That's pretty good. So I'm going to set this aside somewhere. I don't know where. I'm trying hard not to get paint on my new iPad. Yeah, cough, cough, Michelle. So here's our original inspiration photo. Since somebody brought it up, I was trying to figure out how to message all of you. So here's the original photo. And I just, took some creative license with it. Here's the original study that I did while I was on vacation. They're, done from the same photo, but they're very different. And there's nothing wrong with that. Take some creative license with it, have fun, and, draw it a few times and do it you're bound to create one that you really like. That's true, you do. And just play, and remember, you can do something like with a stamp. One of my stamps or somebody else's stamp, and stamp the image on your paper or in your journal with watercolor I mean watercolor. With water soluble, blah, 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 blah. I need more caffeine. Holy cow, people. Waterproof ink. Yes, I do a little bit. Sorry. Or emboss it and then watercolor it. You don't have to draw if drawing is not your thing. But if you want to be better at painting, you probably should practice your drawing. And there's no way to get better at it other than practice. There's no shortcut, because believe me, I'm the queen of shortcuts. If I knew of one, I'd tell you. Oh, you're welcome, Danielle. And I can't help the snoring. It's part of the asthma and allergy thing. Does anybody have any questions? We will be back next week with another Watercolor Wednesday. I'm here every week unless I'm out of town. And some weeks we do paintings. Some weeks we do swatches. I have Daler Rowney, Brusho, Royal and Langnickel. Who else? Oh, and Peerless yet to do. You're welcome, everybody. I do have a Facebook group, if you don't know about it, called A Life of Self-Expression. A Life of Art and Self-Expression. And if you want to see more of my work every day, because I do post stuff every day, go over and join the group. Instead of a fan page, I have the Facebook group. And you can, once you're in there, you can tag me in posts. You can, private message me if you have questions. My contact information is usually in the video description below, my email address and everything. So if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, don't be shy. And everybody, don't forget the most important thing. Y'all know what that is, right? Have a great day and do something nice for yourself, because you deserve it. All right? Yeah, are you feeling arty? I love that saying. All right, so don't forget to do something nice for yourself, because you deserve it. And I will talk to you all later. And like I said, if I'm easy to find, just Google my name. I'm all over the damn place. All right, see you all later. Bye.